For joining me here on Enlightened World Network for A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm your host, Tomás Garza, and I hope you're having a great weekend here. And I know that you're watching from all over the world. So if you are tuning in live, drop a comment here in the comment thread and say hello, and let me know where you're joining us from here today. Where are you? And that's always fun to see because we literally have an international crowd. We've had people from pretty much every continent but Antarctica on here. So that's exciting. It's a lot of fun. And I hope that you're having a beautiful Saturday. So just drop me a comment here if you're catching this. And even if you're watching the replay, yeah, let me know where you're tuning in from. Okay, that'd be fun to see today. So thank you for joining me again. And what we're doing here today is we're concluding one of the periods in the workbook of A Course in Miracles that I find to be a lot of fun. It's where we go through a lesson a day for 20 to 30 days, something like that. It varies depending on the part of the workbook that you're in. And then you have a review period where a number of ideas for the day are in fact reviews of ideas that you've covered. And it's not exactly the same thing twice. It is, of course, by design, the same thing multiple times, which is why I say the same thing, may feel like over and over again. Jesus says the same thing over and over again. Any spiritual teacher will say the same things over and over again by design, of course. But it's not quite the same as repeating a lesson because, as you'll see, as you find if you go through this, the workbook summarizes during the review periods and presents them a little bit differently. That is also by design. It's brilliant and it's genius because the 55th time that we see an idea might be the time that we actually get the idea. Or it might be the time that we decide to take action on an idea that we've gotten and sort of accepted in our lives prior. In other words, as adult learners, we're stubborn, are we not? Of course we are. And we have to hear things over and over and over again, but hence the genius of spiritual practice. That's why if you are an active meditator, you show up and you sit and you meditate again and again and again and again. That's why if you habitually study something like A Course in Miracles, the workbook, that's why you show up day after day, again and again and again and again. And if you have a very active relationship with your teachers and guides, human or non-human, or both, that's why you continue to engage with them again and again and again, because the 100th time you hear something might be the time that really does it for you. And our job as teachers is simply to show up and teach. That's it. That's all. I never know who's going to be joining me here today, but I really thank you for taking the time out. And it's on behalf of all of us. It's not just on my behalf. It's not just on behalf of the network. But the best thing that anyone can do in this world is to practice their own spirituality, to inquire into the nature of yourself, of all things, to ask the right questions and diligently seek the answers because they will come. They will come. And that's exciting, right? And it's fun because this should be fun. Yeah, this should be fun. There should be, ideally, a sense of humor along with repeating these lessons and hearing something for the 89th time. Because if you get it, then you needed to hear it all the 89 times and the 88 times previous, where you didn't take action on it, or you didn't understand it, or you chose to do something else, or you just kind of forgot about it. That happens, right? Everything for a reason, and the timing is perfect. You're watching this live stream is perfect timing. So what's in store for you? Well, I don't know. Stick around. You'll find out. What we're doing today is we're going through lesson 90. So we're wrapping up this review period. And next week, what we'll do is we'll launch right back into the standard format in the workbook, which is one idea a day. Now, the ideas they call lessons. There are always some rebellious folks in the crowd, aren't there, that don't want to feel like they're in school. All right. Well, nobody's making you show up and no one's giving you homework. How about that? You have to choose this, and there's a reason you're here. You've already chosen to do this, or you wouldn't be watching this. I mean, let's just all be honest with ourselves on that one. Whether you do it today or whether you do it 10, 12 years from now, it's on. It's on and there's no going back. That's just something that I love. I absolutely love that about spirituality, don't you? Yeah, I do. I thought you might. So let's review these last two ideas here. Lesson 90 reviews lessons 79 and 80. So these are very profound ideas that are slightly recast in the review period. And we'll just go through some of these today, and then we'll wrap up. And as always, I welcome your comments, your questions. Also, in addition to letting us know where you're joining us from today, please let us know if you have any questions or comments, whether it's about spirituality in general or about A Course in Miracles specifically, either one. All right. The first idea for today that we're reviewing is lesson 79 in the workbook that says, let me recognize my problems so it can be solved, right? Let me recognize my problem, singular, really, so it can be solved. So there's one problem. If there's only one problem, then why do you need 50,000 different solutions? There's one solution, one problem, one solution. It's very simple. What's the problem? Separation. Ultimately, that's it. That's the problem. And the miracle, and we'll talk about what that actually looks like and means in a second. Miracle is the solution. So to put it in a little bit more of a concrete framework, which I think helps and assists in our understanding of this, is to put it in more practical, real world, haha, in quotes, real world, get it, so to speak, terms, because this is not who we are. It's not the real world. It's the experience we're having. Here we are. So to put it in those terms, what the problem is always a grievance that we're holding. It always comes down to a grudge or a grievance that we're holding against someone else or a group of people, right? It could be a government or a political party or anyone. I mean, it could be a group of family members. I don't know, right? There's always a grievance that we're holding, which that's really the issue. Now, why is that an issue if we're holding a grievance? Well, as we've seen, you have a choice between love and fear in every single moment of every day. You can't choose love if you're holding a grievance and actively clinging to it and hanging on to it. If you choose love, the grievances go away. That's what a miracle is, by the way. According to A Course in Miracles, a miracle is not 5D ascension or 30D ascension or anything like that. It's not necessarily activating your pineal gland to pop out of your own body and view your own body from space, which is pretty cool, but it's not awakening. And it's not the miracle. It's much simpler than that. A miracle is choosing love instead of choosing fear. Anytime someone does that, that is a miracle. And there is, as is famously quoted in the Course, no order of difficulty in miracles. What that means is one is just like another. That's a direct quote. One is just like another from the text. That means that no matter how seemingly insignificant the miracle is, it is just as powerful as moving mountains. It's just as powerful as that. All right. If if that helps, I hope it helps. It should, because each of us is capable of these, and each of us is entitled to them, as we saw yesterday in the review ideas in yesterday's live stream. We're all entitled to miracles, period, because of who we are, because of the truth of who we are. So that is the solution. So, of course, we have to recognize what the problem is. Otherwise, how can we solve it? And that's our situation in the world all too often, isn't it? Is that we run around looking for the problem where it is not. And we're attempting to put out fires and solve these little problems. And what happens? Another one gets created. Why? Because we're not looking in the right place. We're looking to outside influences, outside things, outside constructs to solve an internal problem. Well, the problem's internal, separation, grievances. Yeah, the solution's also internal. The miracle is internal. It's choosing love. That's what it is. So we can't find the answer to our problems in a boatload of more money, however wonderful that might be. Yeah, that's not the solution to the problem of separation. Because even if you have millions and millions of dollars or pounds, that would be nice. Yeah. You still aren't guaranteed true, constant happiness. Why? Because that's not where you find money. Now, nothing against it. I make it, right? We make it here. You know, it's something that we need here in the world, and absolutely, it is something that's worth having in the world. It opens up a lot of doors and possibilities and frees us up to do all kinds of things. However, happiness, real happiness, is internal. So that if that's where the problem is, that's where the solution needs to be applied. If we just apply it outside ourselves, there are no amount of beautiful homes or beautiful cars, beautiful expensive pieces of clothing that are going to satisfy us ultimately. That's why we satisfy a desire for something material in the world, and we feel great, right, at the time, feel really wonderful, and then that kind of dissipates, doesn't it? Real happiness does not dissipate. It's the nature of who we are. It's our birthright. So lesson 79 is very important. Let me recognize the problem, so it can be solved. Now, lesson 80 talks about something that is at first maybe a little bit more difficult to grasp from the standpoint of the world because it goes against all of our conditioning. And lesson 80 is let me recognize my problems have been solved. Okay. Have been solved. They're already solved. Definitely in the world, it doesn't feel like that, does it? However, what's the problem? Now, if the problem is that you're in debt and you're trying to pay it off, for example, then that's not the problem that has already been solved. The problem is internal. It's separation. It's choosing fear rather than choosing love. And yeah, that debt is simply an outward manifestation of that. A physical illness is simply the outward manifestation of that. That's the way this all works. So what do we have the power and the capability to do? Well, choose love in the present and recognize that the problem has already been solved. The commentary, I'll sum it up here, says the solution was given as soon as the problem was created. The answer to the separation was given the instant it occurred, simultaneously. So there is not, in fact, a need for a period of time between the wish to solve a problem and the solution to it, because the solution's given already. simultaneously. So this is another way of saying that space and time do not, in fact, truly exist, and they're artificial constructs. So that is lesson 80. Let me recognize that my problems have been solved. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in here today. And if you're catching this on the replay, definitely please let me know that you're joining me here. And this is a daily live stream. However, I will not be here tomorrow. I'll be back with you on Monday. And on Mondays, I'm covering some very, very interesting topics from the lens of A Course in Miracles that have to do with life and spirituality in general. And then we'll get right back into the workbook for students, starting with lesson 91 next week. So thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a great weekend, and I